shows the so-called commodity intensity of demand, the coefficients. As you may know, for the students that don't know, what we call income elasticity or something is a way, is a modified version of the rate of change of the coefficients of intensity. For instance, the intensity coefficient is constant, the income elasticity, forgetting changes in price, is constant. It is unitary. If it is falling, the income elasticity is less than 1. So we can see here that the income elasticity is less than 1, as Predish and all the others talk about commodities, is true for every single commodity in the longer term, including some fluctuation. But as a trend, even in the 2000s, it's a falling trend. The only exception, and here we have metals without China, and the thing continues, because richer economies are getting whiter, more services, more high-tech, less big iron. But look at what happened with the world when you include China. Suddenly you have rising intensity, and that from 95, and then there is a further acceleration after 2002. But clearly it's the only place where demand is growing, the only group of commodities where demand is really growing at the world level. All the rest is not so much. Now, given that demand cannot explain this rising trend on its own, let's speak, some people will turn now very quickly to the other things. The people say, okay, frankly, I have heard. Therefore, I was right. It's this financialization of commodities, financial speculation, that creating this thing, gravity defying increases in price, although demand is not growing so much. So let's look at this discussion about speculation with commodities. Now, three things are listed normally as being responsible for the increase in speculation with commodities. One, the trend of falling interest rates, short-term interest rates in the US. Second, the valuation of the dollar relative to major currencies that happened on the average over the 2000s. Third, the financial deregulation, financial innovation, commodity future markets. Now, of this, the first one, yes, okay, the falling interest rates do help a little bit, given expected prices and many other things, can give some stimulus to speculation. It is unlikely that this alone would explain such big changes, but yes, it is one of the points that can affect short-run speculative change. No problem with that as a short-run term. Now, the valuation of the dollar relative to the euro, yen, etc., doesn't make much sense in the sense that the valuation of the dollar relative to countries that do not produce commodities, and it doesn't have any cost, and non-demanding. There is this idea that people run away from the dollar to the euro yen as a hedge because they think the most developed markets as a hedge, but they think the low interest rates will cause very high inflation, and then you go to euros because America will have big inflation, etc. There is no real long-run correlation between the valuation of the dollar among important currencies and commodity price. Just to give an example, some of you will know. Between 84 and 95, the dollar in nominal terms fell like 50%. And commodities, you saw in the diagram what happened with commodities between 85 and 95. They fell precipitously. So it is an idea. It's a confusion because they do happen sometimes together. Yes, but the same cause causing two phenomena. And that is, sometimes American interest rates are going down more than European interest rates. Then you have, on one hand, some speculative activity in commodities, and also lower interest rates normally are associated with higher growth in the American economy. And at the same time, depending on the relative interest rates, you might have a devaluation of the currency. There is no connection between commodities and the exchange rate. The connection is between the interest rate and exchange rate, yes, and the interest rate and perhaps either the demand, normal demand, and or some speculative demand of commodities. But the idea that people who produce commodities are trying to compensate to save their real income because the dollar is going down is a strange idea. It was quite popular some time ago, but this episode between 85 and 95 is disposable. There's no clear mechanism. It is true that if I am in OPEC and import a lot in euros, I would like to keep my income in euros when the dollar goes down. I would like to increase the oil price to compensate. Surely I would like it was Arab Sheikh. But between you liking something and wanting something and it actually happening, you must have the power to do so. So we have to have a decent story of a transmission mechanism that could make this happen. I don't see any transmission mechanism that could make this happen. Because if you want to keep it, if you're so powerful that you want to keep your income constant in euros, I am more powerful, I want to keep my income increasing in euros. So if that people want to earn more is not a good theory. The theory is how come they cannot earn more. So I think this is very bad. On the other hand, financial deregulation, financial innovation, commodity futures markets certainly has had appears to me that, although it's a very polemical topic, that has had a role. But many people deny this role. Again, I'm not saying it's a long period or short. In the short period, people who deny the role of the speculative bubble in this cycle, they use two arguments. One that was made famous by Krugman is that you didn't see a large accumulation of inventory that should be the sort of a necessary condition for speculation to sustain the price. Because basically, simple marginal diagram like Krugman drew, he believes that when market prices go up, there is a large reduction of demand and a large increase in the supply. And the only way you can avoid this substitution in production and consumption from destroying this speculation is that these people hold more and more of commodities. Now this is a bit complicated especially in general, for commodities, but almost by definition, commodities are things, either in consumption or especially in production, for which it's very difficult to change in a short period of time, both the supply and the demand. Therefore, there is some time, so to speak, for prices to go up, and within that period, there is no single person. Speculation requires people have different expectations. You buy commodities from somebody else, who buys and sells to somebody else, who thinks it's going to grow forever. It's going to grow for one more day, and then the thing only collapses when the last person is wrong. So the idea is you could deny speculation by this loads of supply demand, because it's one of those fantastic marginalist ideas that have no relevance in reality. Now, there's another argument, perhaps more serious, that a lot of people say, wait, but future markets, they are sort of zero-sum game. People, they're bad, some people buy, some people sell. In the end, it's just paper commodities, not real commodities. This has been put forward by a number of people. Yes, okay, but the problem is that I think people do not understand this. They understand the complexities of future markets that I don't, but they sometimes appear not to understand the simpler part of future markets. Future markets, first of all, have nothing to do with the future in the sense that they don't show exactly the expected spot price in the future. Future markets mean future delivery, more or less like Domino's Pizza. Domino's Pizza, I'm sure there is this in Mexico. If you go there and eat the pizza, you call the pizza. If it doesn't arrive in half an hour, here it should be 2 hours because of the traffic. You pay that. It's the price for immediate versus future delivery of the pizza. That doesn't determine the expected price of the pizza. I.e., the pizza now or pizza in half an hour will never have the same price, whether the price tomorrow of the pizza now or in half an hour change up or down. The relationship is not that. It's not the future markets, future delivery. Just to give you a point, the debate about future market not affecting oil prices, for instance, is a bit out of this world, because there is no spot market for oil, because it takes too long. The minimum time that you can buy a contract for delivery of oil is not today. So people get a bit confused with that. And why is this important? The importance is the following. Future and spot markets are strongly connected through arbitrage, which is risk-based speculation. If for instance, there is a lot of transactions in the stock market, and the price goes up. It will be almost impossible not to increase the future market, because then you have enormous incentives for people to cancel deliveries for the future and deliver them now and get profits. Just easy profits. You sell in one market, you buy the other. The same thing is all around. If you start, for some reason, even if the balance of opinions of paper speculators shifts for prices going up, what will happen? Future prices are going up.